Hi guys, I am going to apologize first off for the lighting, and hopefully you can hear me. Everyone else in the house has gone to bed for a good reason. I don't really want them listening to this, but I don't have this scripted, so it may come across funny, and I will probably backtrack and say and a lot, but I wanted to do this for myself and also for some friends of mine and in a video response to a question that was online. What this is, I'm just going to tell my coming out story more or less. So my name is Sarah. I will be 23 next week. And I'm gay. I'm still not used to saying that, actually. I don't say it a whole lot. Background on me, my family is Mormon. I grew up Mormon, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm not an active member of the church. I mean, I live with my family and I attend church with them, but otherwise I wouldn't. Let's see. So, if you know much about the Mormon Church, you'll know that being gay and Mormon, or being gay period, is a huge stigma, very negative stigma and negative stereotype. It's getting a little less in the past couple of years, but still is pretty negative. When I was in 6th grade, and a lot of the girls around me were talking about their crushes and who they liked, and this was when cell phones were first coming out and everyone was texting all the time, or like me and my best friend, we'd spend hours just talking on the phone. People, you know, they still use the phone to talk instead of just text, but I would listen to these friends of mine at school talk about their male crushes, and I couldn't really identify with them. I know I made some up, and if you ask me, I'll still say that person's name, but I never actually liked him like that. I just thought he was really smart, and I was actually very jealous of him being so smart. But that was it. And I knew that, you know, I didn't feel the same as everyone else. I didn't, you know, feel like I was not a person who was interested in people, and, you know, beyond the friendship, but I never quite fit in. I had never heard anything about people being gay or bisexual or anything until I was probably 15 or 16, because I was pretty sheltered, and I'm still admittedly worldly naive in many ways. But I started noticing when I was about 14, even, you know, so before I had heard, you know, that there was this other option of looking at things, or a different way of looking at things. But when I was about 14, I realized I liked my best friend a lot, in a way that I think was different than most girls liked their best friends. And I didn't understand it, and it was very confusing, and I didn't talk to anybody about it, and I actually didn't talk to myself about it. And I noticed that off and on. I'd bring it up to myself, you know, when I'm having these internal monologues with myself, but, you know, would always end up brushing it aside. And then after I learned the term lesbian or and gay, I'd bring that up to myself as like, Sarah, are you a lesbian? And would immediately shut that line of thought down, because growing up Mormon, you just don't do that. You aren't that. And if you are, you don't say it. So I did a pretty good job ignoring it. And kind of a side story, I mean, I obviously, not obviously, but I have always been much more attracted to women than men. When I was 13, I had an obsession with Natalie Portman, because I thought, but she was gorgeous, is gorgeous, and I would print out pictures of her, actually, you know, like just from movie shots, or and I had them taped into a secret little notebook that I kept hidden in my room. So while my sisters, of which I have 5, I have 7 siblings, I have 5 older sisters, an older brother and a younger brother, but anyway, my 5 older sisters, you know, they had their hot guy walls, and I couldn't identify with that. I had my secret hidden away hot girl book, notebook, and you know, over the years more pictures were added, or I've had them on a computer in a file somewhere that I thought was pretty well hidden. I don't know if it actually was or not. I'm not sure I want to know, but not that any of the photos were risque or anything like that, but they were, you know, they meant something to me, but probably wouldn't have meant anything to anybody else. So, you know, I had these as they were kind of telltale sign, if you were looking for it, to, you know, part of who I am. But, you know, so go through the end of high school. You know, I graduate high school saying I'm straight, and I actually started dating my senior year of high school. I dated 2 guys. The first guy was kind of pity dating. That was, you know, really bad on my part. I pity dated him because, well, anyway, it was pathetic. It didn't last very long. He was a very nice guy. Wherever he is, I hope he's doing great. And the second guy was 2 years younger than me and was kind of one of those doomed from the start, even though we got along really well. But so, I mean, you know, I'd kiss these guys and I'd be around them, and while I could interact and it wouldn't make me want to throw up, it was still just, it didn't mean anything to me. It meant nothing to me. And, you know, that kind of bothered me, but whatever. I mean, I just figured that I just hadn't found the right guy, or whatever you want to tell yourself when you just haven't found somebody. So I went off to BYU. I attended BYU for a year and a half, although not consecutively, and noticed a little more there that, you know, there is a huge culture there. I call it the triple M threat, actually, the Mormon marriage madness. And it's very present. There's a very huge push towards, you know, getting married and having children, and while, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, it's not where I was in my life that it was something that I wanted. And I would get very annoyed that, you know, that just felt like it was constantly being shoved on top of me, of meet a guy, get married, and start your life there. And I felt like there was more that I wanted to do. So I'd get really annoyed with that. But I would gravitate towards hanging out with other girls, or being a very introverted person that I am. I spent a lot of time in the school library doing paperwork, or in my room listening to music, or on the computer. And, you know, I interacted with some guys here and there, but it was still never meant anything to me, never got that butterfly feeling that people talk about. In my last full semester that I was there, sorry, this is not pleasant to hear, but it is a very big part of my coming out story. My last full semester there, I was raped by a guy that I had been dating for less than a month, actually. And while I had admittedly, you know, done some stupid things, broke the honor code and stuff like that, and, you know, fooled around with him, still didn't mean anything to me. But in the end, you know, he didn't want to take no for an answer, so I was raped. And that's, you know, that's a whole other story, but So I went home, I tried to get over it, figured, okay, all guys can't be that bad. I'll go back to school. So I went home for the summer. Actually somehow managed to finish the last 2 weeks of the semester and eke out all A's except for one B because I walked out of the exam. I answered maybe 3 of the 50 multiple choice questions, and in the essay portion wrote to my teacher a note saying, I could give you a million excuses why I can't do this and why I have no idea what answer to give you for this question, but I'm not going to. And you're a great teacher, and this is the best I can do. Hope to maybe see you in the future. I turned it in and I left. I was in there for maybe 20 minutes, and I'm assuming most people were in that exam for probably 2 hours, because I had him, I'm tangenting, but I had him a couple of semesters before my first semester for the first half of that class. And, they were lengthy exams, but so he knew my work and he knew that I was a consistent student, so I guess he gave me a B. He must have averaged out the rest of my work minus the exam. So hooray for that. But so I went home, spent the summer at home. I just kind of didn't, address anything, deal with anything, and went back to BYU that fall and was there for almost 2 months before I was sexually assaulted by a classmate when I was going over to his house, apartment, whatever it was, I was assuming that we were going to study and maybe watch a movie because I knew he was interested in me. But anyway, another bad situation. I left BYU within 3 days, and I've been back to Utah 1 time since then. And it was for a family function, and it was still a nightmare. So I don't go back there. But after that, I was pretty solidly set in the idea of I don't want anything to do with guys. And sorry, I just made the focus go weird, but I didn't want anything to do with guys in any way, shape, or form. And I didn't want to talk to them. I didn't want to see them. And it was just uncomfortable and a very unhappy time. And so I came home and kind of did nothing for several months. Got a job eventually working as a nanny. But while working as a nanny, I had a lot of time to think to myself because the children were old enough to entertain themselves. So I ended up coming to the conclusion by the end of that summer of nannying that I actually am in fact gay, that it makes so much more sense to say that I'm gay than it does to say that I'm straight or even bisexual. And so I kind of mulled it over for a couple days. I had been talking about it a little bit with a friend of mine here and there, but was finally just like, yep, this is it. This makes so much sense. So I actually told my parents within a couple of days of coming out to myself, like completely and fully, not having these internal monologues, but saying, Sarah, you're gay. I came out to my parents as being, because this actually how I first came out to myself was being homo-romantic bisexual, because I have had relationships with guys in the past, and I was like, I don't know how to reconcile that with the fact that it didn't mean anything to me, and also with my parents who are not comfortable with the idea of me being gay. So that's how I originally came out to them, but I'd say that within 6 months just transitioned into me just being gay. And at first my parents you know, they didn't say a whole lot that night other than we're really concerned. And I actually was extremely paranoid that they were going to kick me out of the house. I had even, asked a friend, was like, hey, if I get kicked out of the house, can I come stay with you tonight? But they didn't. They haven't, as you can tell by the mess that is my room. But we didn't really talk about it for a while after that, and it was kind of obvious that they thought it was just a phase, maybe part of my healing process from the rape and the sexual assault. And if I hadn't had these other experiences when I was a teenager and realizing that I liked my best friend a lot, and those pictures that I had put all together, which actually ended up getting burned at one point because I was so much in denial and did not want to admit that I'm gay, I burned all of them at once in a big bonfire, actually. We didn't really talk about it after that, me and my parents, until later that year, towards the end of the year. So this was 2011. At the end of 2011, I started going to a community college in an attempt to finish at least my associate's degree, which, no, I still haven't finished. But anyway, I met this girl there who automatically was kind of that very cliche love at first sight deal, where I saw her, almost didn't go into the room because I had so many butterflies. And while she's not a part of my life anymore, she was a huge part of my life for about 5 months. And we never dated because she had a boyfriend, but anytime I talked about her, it was very obvious that this person meant a lot to me, that I was very attracted to her, both physically and emotionally. And it, to me, was more of a solidification to myself that, yes, this is me. This is Sarah. And to my parents, I'm pretty sure it was a nightmare. But, it also, I think, hopefully helped them see a little more that this isn't just a phase for me. This isn't something I'm doing to torture them. I hope they realize that. Wow, this video is long. Sorry. But I started telling a couple of more people. I knew this girl for about 3 months, and towards the end of my first term at the community college, I actually spent a week in a private psych ward kind of deal, just because I wasn't dealing with the rape and I wasn't dealing with my parents not being accepting of me being gay, and also of my oldest sister / best friend, because the best friend, different from the best friend from high school who I actually lost contact with at the end of high school, but my sister, when she found out shortly after my parents did that I'm gay, because she deduced it on her own. She and my mom have what I call Sarah radar. They kind of figure things out eventually, but usually sooner than anybody else will when things come to me. And we didn't really talk for about 6 months. And that was really hard because she has 4 children. And they are a huge part of my world. I have 15 nieces and nephews. Number 16's on the way. Number 14, little Ezra, he actually passed away last year, but I have 15 nieces and nephews. And those kids are my world. And have literally been the only reason on multiple occasions why I didn't commit suicide. So to feel like I couldn't have contact with 4 of them, and I know ants aren't supposed to have favorites. They're my favorites. And it's because I've spent a lot of time with them. I maybe shouldn't say favorites. I know them the best. or did anyway. But so that was really hard. I wasn't coping with that. I wasn't coping with the rape or the sexual assault. So I spent a week in the hospital, a private place. And when I came out, came out of the hospital, decided it was time to come out to the rest of my siblings. So I called all of them up, and they live in various places throughout the country. My oldest sibling actually lives in England, so that was even harder. But I called them up. Not a single one was a comfortable conversation. And the only one I got to do in person is because they live about 10 minutes from my parents, and the girl that I was interested in was kind enough to go with me and entertain that sister's children while I, talked to my sister and brother-in-law, and they were not surprised, and they've actually been the most supportive of me. But with all of my siblings, it was not comfortable. I take it back. There was one other in person. I'm sorry. One of my other sisters was living at home at the time. I forgot. And so I called my second oldest sister and my older brother. And another sister was in person. That was the one that lives about 10 minutes away. The next one lived at the house. So she kind of heard the arguments with my parents. And also she saw me with the person that I was interested in. And it's a little obvious that I was interested in her. And then I called my sister, who at that time I think was in Utah, though I think she's in California now. And then my little brother found out through overhearing conversations, so I didn't actually tell him or the one sister who lived here. But either way, none of it was comfortable. Some of my siblings were very much of the mindset of, I'm not sure if I want you around my children, which was a huge blow. A very huge blow, because I had just, dealt with that with my sister in England, and it was hard. It's still hard. It still hurts sometimes. And I know while they're okay with me being around their children now, we don't discuss the fact that I'm gay unless I bring it up, and then it automatically makes them uncomfortable. And if I were to ever date anyone, then it would probably come into question again whether I could go around their children. And certainly for some of them, I'm sure that my partner would not be able to go near them. Or at least in the sense that they are my partner. So that's kind of depressing. But so that's my coming out to my immediate family. And I'd say most people that I grew up with still don't know. I think most of my cousins know now because of Facebook. It took me a while. I actually deleted my Facebook at one point because I had come out to my siblings and myself and my parents and, a couple of close friends. But the most I was willing to do for other people, or with regards to other people, was put LGBT, QA, however long you want to make the anagram, but was just to put ally-friendly things on my Facebook, and I would get personal messages and comments on those things that were just really long, and some of them were really very hurtful, and there were a few in particular from some of my cousins that, while I know they weren't trying to be hurtful, they were probably some of the more hurtful things that I've read in my life, geared towards me. And so I deleted that Facebook. I didn't have a whole lot of contact with them. This past summer I created one all over again, that I use for family. And so they are aware now. I haven't specifically told them, but it's on my Facebook, that I'm interested in women, and I, have gay-friendly things on there, and I have put in a few notes before, and a few statuses even, that I'm gay, And so there's also a few non-family people associated with that, but most people still don't know. I'm actually still terrified to tell most people, especially the people that my family goes to church with. I am terrified of their reaction. I, at various points in my life, have been a Sunday school teacher, and given the reaction that my siblings have had about me being around their children, I'm afraid that these people are going to question how I acted with their children, and the things that I taught their children, which to me is incredibly hurtful, to think that they might, but so I don't know, I haven't come out to most of them. And since there is so much so much of a push for Mormons to get married, particularly Mormon women, and I am almost 23 and unmarried and not dating, I get some people who come up to me a lot and say, Sarah, why aren't you dating? Why aren't you married? And most of them are teasing good-naturedly, but some of them are serious. And I wish that I could tell them, just mostly to shut them up. Sometimes I want the shock factor, let's be honest, I do. But I don't tell them, because I'm afraid. And I'm also afraid of the backlash it would have on my family because of the positions that my family holds in the church. And there are some people I went to high school that know. The majority don't. Not that I talk to most of them, but sometimes I feel like I'm still half the way in the closet because I avoid telling a lot of people, and I avoid some situations so that I don't have to come in contact with people. And they're like, I went to a doctor appointment the other day and was complaining about how I was at the bar the other weekend with a friend, and this guy was hitting on me, and I did my thing where I freeze up because I don't know how to get out of those situations, but I was also infuriated because, you know, I didn't want anything to do with him because he was a guy, and also he was one of those guys who thinks that, you know, it's men's job to take care of women and women can't take care of themselves. Heaven forbid they try to take care of themselves. But I just wanted to be able to say to him, hey, I'll have a conversation with you, but otherwise back off, because I'm not interested in you that way, and I'm not going to be. And so at the doctor's office, I was, you know, complaining about that, and the nurse was like, well, most women, you know, would love it if a man was paying attention to them. And I wanted to be able to say, most, yes, but I'm not most. I would much rather that it was a woman who was paying attention to me. But I couldn't say it because I was afraid of what her reaction would be. And I think that's the hardest thing for me about coming out, is being afraid of what people's reaction is going to be. And I don't know, I'm hoping with my birthday next week, actually, even though I don't actually like rainbows that much, it is a rainbow themed birthday party, because my goal for this year is to be more comfortable with myself, so that regardless of what other people think, that I will be okay when I want to say that I'm gay and not feel like I have to hide it. And so that's something I have to work on, but anyway, this is an incredibly long video. I'm so sorry. If you've watched this far, kudos to you. I would give you a hug, but I'm pretty sure I don't know how to do that through a camera yet. I'll figure it out someday, but yep, that is my story, and I don't know if this would ever help anybody, but I hope maybe someday it will, and in the very least I hope it helps others to understand me. And to all of my friends who might watch this, I love you guys. Thank you for loving me back, and we'll see you guys around.